Hello everyone, this is Shadow. Due to copyright restrictions on YouTube, I can't publish many of the audiobooks you love. That's why I've created a special paid service where you can enjoy over 300 high-quality audiobooks from platforms like Webnovel, Pocket FM, Audible, Wuxia, and more. Each novel comes as a one-time purchase, no subscriptions, no hidden fees. After payment, you'll receive full access via Telegram, along with all future updates for that novel. You'll find a wide selection of your favorite genres and titles, always in premium audio quality. Check the full list of available novels in the description. DM me now to get your favorite stories in audiobook form and start listening today. Chapter 533. Chaos at the Von Rosen Ancestral Lands. Damn it! It is here again. Run! The young man named Kiln, who was on a lookout task, shouted as he came running down from the roof. Shit! Rain, who could only rest for no less than 20 minutes with Tulip, Ray, and 3 others who were what was left of her team, cursed as he jumped to his feet and sprang out of the window, using already prepared ropes to slide down, then began to run without looking back. Only Tulip was not running. She was simply floating and gliding down with her open umbrella. Unfortunately, this forced all of her men to keep their eyes down as she insisted on wearing a skirt like a proper lady. Anyways, the moment they jumped out of the windows of the ruined mansion they were hiding in, no less than 14 strange strands of red silky feelers no thicker than a cat's whisker broke through the floor and began to feel around. Then, as if it felt their lingering warmth, 5 huge tentacles emerged from underground surrounding the entire building in a matter of seconds before sucking it down into a vortex of dusk and dirt. It was a totally out-of-this-world scene, and by the end of it, only a small pile of dirt was left where a huge mansion once stood. Then, poof! From the ground came a stream of debris shooting to the sky, then began to rain down everywhere like arrows of death. Thankfully, Rain and his group had already gotten accustomed to this thing's attack patterns after barely surviving it a few dozen times, so they quickly took cover under a nearby ruin. Damn it! Its attacks are getting more frequent. Those from the other teams must have mostly been neutralized. Rain cursed again as he looked around. What once was a complete residential complex was now a complex maze of rubble. The moment they entered this dungeon, they found themselves in a ghost town surrounding the old Rose Mountain, the Von Rosen Ancestral Lands. This town should have been a prosperous area where the family's offspring and servants were housed with their families. When they entered, it was a complete ghost town, though with not a soul to be seen. It was safe to say that everyone here was dead. The Summon Terror dungeon. To clear, complete one of the following conditions. Annihilate the Astral Terror? %%%%%%%. Cancel the Astral Terror? %%%%%%%. Summoning and force it back into the void. That was the message that welcomed them upon entering this place. Introducing their enemy, who didn't take long to come to their welcome. It was generous enough to eat 2 of their teammates immediately to save them the pain of being hunted around. Ever since then, they had been on the run with barely time to catch their breath. Tulip sighed as she looked at the sunless blue sky above, then up the mountain that should be the center of this dungeon. Their target should be to go up the mountain, but she had seen what happened to that team from the von Geldstadt family who went there before them. The entire earth split open, and a giant mouth ate them in one gulp. Where to head now? One girl in a tight combat outfit asked as they slowed down upon reaching a nearby half-destroyed building. Damn it! She should have been following young Master Perez and trying to get into his bed instead. But because one of her colleagues had an uncle in the family's HR department, that bitch ended up taking her place. We have to make a choice, Tulip pondered as she analyzed the situation. We can either move to the lake surrounding the town and wait. This thing feelers don't seem to work in water, so we can play hide and seek with it there, or we can force our way up and try to conquer this dungeon, she said. She could also leave using her master's talisman, but she was not going to abandon her team. Can't we search and see if we can meet with any survivors of the other teams? One guy from the team asked. We should have done so from the start. I doubt if any of them are left, Tulip replied coldly. She never expected this thing to be this powerful. We should go with the second option. Rain sighed. If not for his and Tulip's superb powers, they would have already been killed no less than 5 times. I doubt that uncle of yours will send help anytime soon, he added. Klin and the others from the Von Krone family quickly shot him a glare. How dare he talk about their patriarch? Tulip ignored them and didn't argue. She too didn't trust Eric. I don't think we can kill it since even your death power didn't seem to work, she said. Rain's power, although it could temporarily make one of those tentacles wither away, a new one would attack right after. Wasting energy on it was useless. So our only option would be to try and cancel its summon by destroying its anchor, But this would be almost impossible without finding the original summoning ritual location that can be in a hidden underground vault. What is that thing anyway? How can a creature be this powerful? Didn't this world have rules? Ray complained. She had seen many things in the last few months with Rain and Tulip, overcoming many difficult dungeons. But this thing was the scariest. Rules exist, but monsters in dungeons don't need to follow them. They are technically enemies of the world itself. Tulip said. I still can't tell if this thing is an aquatic or a terrestrial monster, though. Knowing about its habitat and growing environment would allow us to pinpoint its weakness, she pondered. Identifying an enemy was one of the basic skills of a player, but till this moment, she had no idea about this thing's true nature. If you ask me, it is like some monster you find in horror movies coming from outer space or some hellish dimension. Those things have no weak points, Rain commented. It was more like those nasty things you find in some really depraved R-rated entertainment, but he was not going to say that. Not because he cared about the girl's feelings, but Tulip was the kind who grew up in a very sheltered family, so in case she got curious and was to check it after they left, well, he wouldn't know what her face would look like, but he was sure he would lose a layer of skin. I think it looks like those tentacle monsters in porn to me, Clint commented. Tentacle monsters in porn? Is there such a thing? Tulip turned and asked as Rain looked away as if he didn't know about such things. Yeah, they rape women and such, Clint said as he scratched the back of his head. They make monsters rape people and film it? Tulip gasped in shock. Clint felt something was wrong, but he could only clear Tulip's misunderstanding. They are actors. The actresses are just acting. Oh, Tulip nodded. But even so, those monsters, they are not real. Most of the shows with such things are animations, and for the live action, those perverts use puppets and VFX. Rain, who couldn't take it anymore, explained to finish this awkward conversation. The narrative has been illicitly obtained should you discover it on Amazon. Report the violation. Tulip had to pause there and turned toward him. You seem to know a lot about those things? Just heard of them from a friend, Rain quickly said, shooting daggers at Kiln. Damn it. He always acted as a gentleman around Tulip. A gentleman should not be aware of such depravities. Oh, Tulip nodded. Then we can only. Wait. She paused and peered around as if she had finally noticed something. What's wrong? Rain asked. Tulip took a hand-drawn map and looked at it without answering. Took her only a second to realize it. Their escape path from 2 hours ago until now. It was as if it were all planned out. They were mistaken. This monster was definitely not stupid. It seemed to have been guiding them here all along. It's a trap, she shouted. Run and use the escape talisman TO, she shouted. But it was too late. Before she could continue, all around them, out of nowhere, the feelers sprang all at once, entangling them. 2 of the guys couldn't dodge in time, and the feelers that had sharp tips penetrated their hearts. The rest quickly used their emergency escape talismans that should send them to a random position around the dungeon. Sadly, the talisman didn't work as a strange screeching sound reverberated in the air. What? This? One guy shouted as his ears began to bleed. Damn it, quick escape, Tulip said as she glanced in pain. That monster must have some limitations depending on where they were, and had been guiding them toward this place from the start in order to take them out in one sweep. Quickly she wanted to shout, but before she could say anything, she felt her consciousness drown into darkness. The last thing she could see was a giant mouth full of sharp teeth engulfing her with everyone else. HSSSSSSSSSSSS. When Tulip opened her eyes, her entire body hurt as she winced from the pungent, rotting flesh smell of her surroundings. What? Where? Who? As she tried to move, she grimaced in pain as she was pricked by some sharp things that seemed to protrude from the sticky substance that was wrapping her like a cocoon. Only her face was clear as she was hung upside down in absolute darkness. She quickly activated her night vision skill and then gasped. She was in a cavern made out of red, throbbing, strange, thorny red tentacles looking like twigs of a tree. They were filling the room, wrapped around what seemed to be many decomposing corpses with feathery feelers coming out of their mouths. Those same tentacles were wrapping around her, too. Kaya! She gasped in shock. For a moment there, she shivered in fear and despair, but it was only for a split second. She quickly took a deep breath to stabilize her mind as her mother taught her. There would be time for despair later. At the moment she needed to escape. Quickly, she tried to reach her storage ring, but in a second she noticed that it was not on her finger. She was completely naked. How? Did that thing undress her? Yup. It has totally undressed you. One should expect such strange tendencies from a tentacle monster, though. It is not only totally wicked but also very smart. It tends to learn from its mistakes, So removing your deafness before assaulting you is a must, someone wisely said, making Tulip quickly gasp and force her body to turn and look to the side. And there he was with his signature blonde hair and smug face, standing and looking at her with a smirk as if it was the most natural thing to do. Vic Volt! She couldn't help but hiss. This guy was the last thing she expected to see here. Was she dreaming? Use the fucking right pronoun, Victor said, flicking her forehead. Ouch! You. She clearly wasn't dreaming. What the fuck are you doing here? She asked as her body swayed a bit. Why the fuck every time she met him? She had to be tied up and helpless. This seat came here to save you, of course. We can't let our little turnip be eaten by others, he said. My name is fucking Tulip. She couldn't help but scold. And don't give me that stupid rhetoric you use to fool girls. As if she would ever believe anything this bastard said. He was clearly here to steal the Von Rosen's treasures. What rhetoric? Couldn't this seat come to save his cute little piglet who was about to be raped by a tentacle monster? He asked as if he was hurt. You are the fucking cute piglet. Your entire family is a group of piglets. She spat angrily as her body swayed. She was trying to escape, but it was useless. Pang. He flicked her forehead again. Use the right pronouns. Your Highness and your Highness's esteemed family. He advised as he began poking her forehead, making her body sway. And you are right, this seat didn't expect to meet you here. It's kinda like destiny. Maybe you are destined to be this emperor's concubine. Like hell I am. Tulip spat as she rolled her eyes. Was this the time for this? Did you? Your Highness killed it? She asked as she finally noticed how he stood there in his bright white military suit and scathed. Kill what? The monster. Nope. This thing needs an army to finish it off. He told the truth. Then how? Oh well. This seat naturally managed to fool it into becoming my pet. Vic shrugged. A pet? She gasped. So that's why he was here. This bastard seemed to always have some wicked plan. You. It didn't work as intended. This thing is resisting and actively trying hard to disobey this emperor's commands. Although pain can affect it, it seems to not be able to remember it. It is as if it is not one complete being, but many parts that are one. One and many at the same time. Strange. He pondered. It's a pain in this imperial ass as it apparently can't be trained, he finally said, sounding troubled. At the very least, this emperor can stop it from attacking me and force it to do simple things. That's why you are still in one piece despite being eaten for more than 6 hours. He shrugged. The moment he arrived here, he quickly commanded it to stop its digestion process and made his way here. Oh! Her eyes twinkled after hearing him. Can you make it let go of me then? She asked. He glared at her angrily. Can your Highness force it to let go of me? She asked as she gnashed her teeth. Of course, this emperor can. We already forced it to wake you up, Victor said. But... He hesitated. But what? What do you want now? She spat as her body swayed. You have to sign a contract to obey and become this seat's maid until we leave this place, he said, pulling out an already prepared parchment. It is the same one you signed back at the Red Moon dungeon. You. Come on, turnip, use the right pronoun. And this seat is not asking for much, Victor said as he pushed a pen into her mouth. Sign. She mumbled with the pen in her mouth as she glared at him. Okay, you can read it, Victor said, putting the contract at a safe distance from her so she could read it. It was really the same one from before. She quickly read it. Yup, it was the same. He also added the clause that he would not assault her without her permission. Time's up, sign it. He pushed the contract close to her face again. I am not hearing you. Use the right pronoun, he scolded. She rolled her eyes. Was this guy serious? She complied. Fine, I will help you look for your team. 4 of them are still alive, but might not be for long, he said, taking the contract, writing one last line in it, then pushing it toward her. Gushing her teeth around the poor pen, she signed her name. Poof! The contract shone and vanished a moment later. Contract complete. A notification soon appeared in front of both of them. Good, Victor said as he put his hand on the tentacle wrapping her. Let go of her, he ordered. Nothing happened. Fucking let go of this seat's turnip, Victor hissed as he activated the slave punishment mechanism. An ear-piercing screeching sound reverberated in the air as the tentacles surrounding Tulip in a very perverted way withdrew into the flesh wall, letting go of her slimy, naked body. She tried to quickly fall to her knees, but for some reason, her body was very limp, and she could helplessly close her eyes, expecting to hit the ground. She didn't, as firm warm hands caught her in midair into an embarrassing yet strangely familiar princess's hold. You have become a little heavier lately. That's good. It means you have been developing well. He nodded to himself. Let go of me, you fucking pervert. She hissed as she blushed heavily and kicked with her jade legs. Why the hell did he have to always appear like this? Use the right pronoun. He flicked her forehead, then pushed a healing pill into her mouth, making sure to force her to lick his finger as he pulled it out. This should help you. Astron's poison, although not strong, is very troublesome once you get affected with it. He sighed, then slowly put her on the ground and threw a maid's dress over her body. Astron? She asked as she grabbed the dress and silently cursed. Yup. This emperor has already given it a nickname. It is just that it is too ungrateful to appreciate it. He sighed. Like some turnip. You are the fucking turnip, she shouted. For some reason, whenever she met this guy, she got to use some profane words that she had never used before. Use the fucking right pronoun. Author. Sorry for the delay. Next chapter will be published after editing. Thanks for the donations and enjoy. /author. Chapter 534. Chaos in the Monster's Belly. Where are we? Tulip asked, grabbing the short skirt of her maid uniform to keep it down as she followed behind Vic throughout strange underground tunnels. Her instinct was telling her that she should stay next to him. Those walls were covered with strange, throbbing tentacles that seemed to be aware of her existence as they followed behind, waiting for a chance to attack. They were the strangest things she had ever seen. It was as if every tentacle was a thick tree branch made of rotten flesh. It had strange thorns and even leaf-shaped feelers that strung every once in a while. It even had bizarre flower-shaped mouths that were dripping a clear, pungent liquid. If Vic were not here with her, she was sure that those things would have long pounced on her. Still, it seemed like his control over this thing was just enough to keep them at bay for now. We are inside the monster's belly. Technically, those tunnels were built by the von Rosen family as a part of their celestial maze to train their heirs, but they have long become part of it. He sighed as he looked around. Entering this place was not a pretty experience. He was technically swallowed whole, but thankfully he had a system map to guide him around. Oh, Tulip nodded. Then that entire mountain? She asked, her bare thighs shivering a bit. Yup, all of it has already become a part of Astron. Everyone who went there is already dead. He sighed. He knew this the moment he bound Astron. But at that time, he was in another world and couldn't command it to stop. HSSSSSSS. She gasped. How the fuck was this considered an A ranking dungeon? Wasn't such a place supposed to be an S or SS ranked? It is an A rank because undoing the summoning is not impossible. Just find the summoning anchor and destroy it, and this thing would just be sent away. As if reading her mind, he said. Then we need to find it? She quickly said. With Vic's power, this was really possible. Already did. Destroying it will be our last resort if everything else fails. He sighed. Everything else? Your Highness is still planning to tame it? She asked. Yup. Wouldn't giving it a nickname go to waste if this seat didn't? He asked as if this was what really mattered. Although the normal method proved useless, hope is not all lost. This emperor knows of a way. He sighed. Astron, who barely followed his command, was useless in his current state, but thankfully he got Ruby here just in case. It is going to be troublesome, he said mysteriously. Oh. Tulip squinted her eyes, wondering what he was planning to do. Still, being with him here, she was no longer as nervous as she was before. At least her life was no longer in danger. Then my friends? She asked. She didn't want her team to be implicated in this bastard's plans. This seat always keeps its promises. Look, he said as they reached a strange room similar to the one Tulip was in. The pungent smell was a bit strong as the walls were composed of strange, thin tentacles that seemed to surround a few mummified people. This one is alive, Vic said, patting one of the tentacles. A moment later, a screech sounded, and the tentacles withdrew to reveal the naked body of a delicate girl, whom Tulip hurried to grab before Vic's filthy hands could reach her. One of yours? He asked with a frown as if he didn't know. Yeah, her name is Ray, Tulip said as she grabbed a pill from Vic's hand and pushed it in her mouth. A moment later, Ree's eyelid fluttered. Then she opened them wide and looked around, gasping for air. Ah! What? She screamed and began to look around fearfully. It's me, Tulip said, calming her down as she activated a magical lamp that Victor threw at her. They didn't need it earlier, but Ray didn't have night vision skills. Oh, Miss Tulip. You. We. She finally calmed down as she noticed the familiar face. You are safe, Tulip said as she glared at Vic. He chuckled and threw another skimpy-made outfit toward them. Poor Tulip couldn't locate her storage ring after all. Astron should have already barfed it with all the indigestible materials outside. It had long learnt that people can use those things to harm it. Doesn't your highness have any other clothes? Tulip couldn't help but ask as Ray finally noticed the other guy. Who was he? Why would this emperor keep women's clothes on him? He asked with a frown. Why would you keep those depraved maid's clothes then? Tulip spat. Use the fucking right pronoun, he scolded. As for the maid's dresses, they are naturally for my maids. This emperor has a dream to collect pretty maids from all over the world to warm my imperial bed. If you are interested in joining, just say the word. My imperial bed is always open for you. Like hell that would happen. Tulip spat in a low voice, deciding to ignore him as she helped the nervous Ray, who couldn't understand what the hell was going on here, get dressed. Let me introduce him. This guy. His Highness is called Vic Volt. He uses the pronouns His Highness and His Majesty. And you may refer him as the Emperor, Tulip said sarcastically, introducing Vic to Ray, who finally stood in that maid's uniform. Until we exit this dungeon, we should basically follow his commands. Ah, nice to meet you. Your Highness, Ray quickly bashfully said, wondering who this guy really was. Could he be real royalty? She was a bit shy to ask, so she decided she would inquire about him from Tulip later. A quick learner. Not bad. Nice to meet you too. This emperor will be in your care until we exit this place, Vic said as he checked her body. She was not very charming, but had a certain cute air to her. You are really nice. Too bad some other guy already has dibs on you, he lamented, shaking his head before turning to leave. Wait, your Highness knows something about who is the one behind the binding on her, Tulip quickly asked as she followed, pushing her maid uniform's skirt down as she did. This damn thing was way too short. A proper lady shouldn't show her knees in public. Of course, I could tell the moment I laid eyes on her, Vic sighed as Ray looked around, then followed behind them curiously. His aura is all over her body. Who is it? Tulip asked. The Nutcracker, Vic hissed in an annoyed voice as he looked around nervously, making sure that mentioning that name didn't summon something from the shadows. An ancient demon. According to the info this seat collected, it was locked away in a hidden level inside some dungeon, but recently managed to escape after some stupid person got too greedy. It had been collecting edict shards like there is no tomorrow, and it just happened that your little girl is connected to one of them, making her become his property, he explained. Oh, Tulip nodded, remembering the demon they met back then. This confirmed some of her guesses. I am surprised your Highness knows a lot about this. Not even the Death Lord knew about him, she said, secretly testing him. That legal lowly elf is not from this world originally, so she wouldn't know, Vic replied casually. Elf? Tulip was surprised. She didn't expect him to know about Rain's master? How deep was this guy's knowledge? Yup, legal lowly elf to be exact. The dream of every lullicon, he sighed, shaking his head. Oh, Tulip rolled her eyes. She didn't even dare to ask why he was sighing, so she decided to return to the main subject. Can you free Ray? She asked as Ray followed nervously behind them, peering around, looking at Vic while wondering who he was and how he knew all those things. And what was his relationship with Tulip anyway? The way they baked with each other was something that even Rain, who was one of the few who talked casually with Tulip, couldn't do. Vic paused after hearing Tulip's question. It is possible, but the cost would be very high. This emperor does not wish to be a target for the Nutcracker's revenge, so nope. He flatly refused. I didn't take you for a coward. Tulip raised one eyebrow. Look, don't even try to play the dignity card. It is useless on this shameless emperor. He sighed. This seat can manage to court death itself, but I would not dare to anger the Nutcracker. Believe this seat. This is not something anyone should do. He hesitated. There might be a way, though, he said after thinking about something. What? Tulip asked as Ray followed. Her curiosity about this guy kept getting deeper, especially with how confidently he was making his way through the maze-like tunnels as if he knew his way perfectly. To become a noble existence. That way, not even the Nutcracker would dare to harm her, he whispered. A noble existence. Tulip frowned. This was the first time hearing this. HSSSSS. Don't speak about it loudly. This seat can't talk about it. No one can, he said, looking around as if nervous someone would hear him. This was a part of his bigger plan after all. Look, I can't promise a thing, but we might be able to help. It will take some time, though, so you will have to wait. This emperor will send you the conditions when the time is right, he said as he turned and hurried forward. Tulip looked at Ray, then followed. Although this guy appeared to have some screws loose, knowing him from before at the Red Moon dungeon, she could tell he was not a bad guy at all. By the way, I wanted to thank your highness for your help regarding my mother, Tulip said as they walked, making Ray listen with curiosity. She had never seen Tulip talk like this with anyone ever before. Oh, no need. It was your payment for acting as my bed-warming maid back then. This seat is always generous with his entourage, he said, making Ray almost gasp as she looked between Vic and Tulip. Bed-warming maid? What the hell happened between those two? Tulip blushed a bit as she cursed at him in her mind. She didn't want her friends to know about her shameful past. I just wanted to ask, how did your highness know about that thing hiding inside my mother? She asked. Since she was already forced to act as his maid, she might as well take the opportunity to get some intel out of him. This seat knows a lot of things, some of which are so disturbing that they would make even that master of yours shiver in fear. He chuckled as if reading her mind. Tulip glared at him. Yeah, she should have already figured out that he knew about her master. That reminded me, did you put some insignia on me the last time we met? She asked as she remembered how her master told her that she had a strange, fleeting substance in her bloodstream. Vic swallowed. No, it might be those demons in the Dark Moon dungeon. He lied. The one who is behind your mother's incident might also be the one. You know who this emperor is talking about, right? He quickly changed the subject. No idea, she replied, glaring at him. She didn't believe him one bit. Might your highness enlighten me? It is your uncle, Eric. That guy is a sneaky piece of shit, he sighed. Your mother should have already figured out that he was the one behind it, he said, returning to the main subject. Tulips raised one eyebrow. He is the prime suspect, but we don't have proof, she told the truth. He knows how to hide his tracks, but even with proof, you wouldn't be able to corner him. That guy is far more dangerous and scheming than you would expect. Vic sighed. In the other timeline, if not for many circumstances being piled on each other, Eric would never have been defeated by Lily's father. But don't worry about him. Someone should be able to get rid of him for you when it is his time. Someone? Tulip raised one eyebrow. Did this guy also have info about her family's internal affairs? Yup, someone very close to you. That's all this emperor can say, lest that person got angry with the seat. He shivered a bit, scratching his forearm. When it all ends, your father should be able to become the Von Krone patriarch. He smirked. Tulip didn't know how to respond to that but to raise her eyebrows. She couldn't imagine her stupid father as a family head. After that, they walked through the maze for another 15 minutes before reaching another room with a broken door. Vic walked right in and touched the flesh wall, making the tentacles withdraw partially to reveal the faces of the 3 living people inside. Rain! Ray gasped as she reconfined one of them. The others were Klin, and the other was a surviving girl from Tulip's team called Teeny. Ah! HSSSSSS. Rain opened his eyes as he winced in pain. He quickly found himself tied upside down. Tulip, Ray, and... He didn't recognize this guy, but he seemed familiar, as if he had seen him somewhere before. What happened? The last thing he remembered was losing consciousness when that thing trapped him. Wait, why were Tulip and Ray in such sexy maid uniforms? Was he dead? Was this heaven? Bam! You are still alive. Tulip smacked his head as she quickly adjusted her skirt. She could easily read his filthy mind. You are saved, she said, turning toward Vic. Can your highness free them? She asked. Yes, but... Vic threw 3 parchments toward her. Make them sign it, he said. Those are? Ray asked. Contracts to make them his servants until we leave this place. Tulip spat as she checked the contracts. They were similar to hers, with 2 extra little conditions: that all their acquired points other than authority would go to Vic after the dungeon was over, and that they should protect him in case of danger. Oh! Ray exclaimed. Sign those. Don't worry. I was made to sign similar ones before. They should be harmless. Tulip told Rain as mercilessly as she pushed the pen into his mouth, as Vic had done to her earlier. Who is he? Rain asked with the pen in his mouth, finally noticing Vic. Who the hell was this guy? He seemed familiar, but being upside down he couldn't really tell. A friend. That is all you need to know. Tulip shook her head. And we don't really have a choice. He is the only one who can save us. She sighed. He mumbled again as he secretly stole a glance at Tulip's thighs. Just do it, she added, making Rain hesitate for a moment, then quickly sign. His eyes were so focused on Tulip's thighs that he completely read the conditions, which was a mistake. Your Highness, I didn't sign such a contract. Ray, who watched them sigh, suddenly turned and said nervously toward Vic. Vic was taken aback. What a good girl. This seat doesn't dare to force you to become a maid, he sighed. Being that thing's slave might not be as bad as you think, he said. Oh. Ray quickly realized that this had something to do with the Nutcracker. Your Highness can let them go now, Tulip said as she finished making them sign. Sure. He flicked his finger, making Astron screech loudly as it withdrew its tentacles, letting the three people fall naked to the floor. Ah! Rain and the others grimaced in pain as their bare butts hit the floor. Can I have some healing pills and some clothes for them? Tulip asked as she watched Vic turn to leave. Sure, he said as he threw her a bottle of pills and 3 nylon-wrapped new-made uniforms before leaving the room. Make sure they are well-dressed before following this emperor. I don't want people to start rumors about my sexual orientation. Like hell I would wear something like that. Rains reverberated right after. Sadly, that contract he signed clearly states that until the dungeon closes, he was going to be a maid. And every maid needed a skimpy uniform. Outside the dungeon, right beside the silent lake, the space rippled, and 3 masked girls in combat uniforms walked out of thin air. Didn't you say we are going to climb a mountain? Why is there a lake and a dungeon gate here? One tan-skinned one asked. Something must have happened, it doesn't matter, the other girl said as she moved her hand in thin air as if checking some info. Let's go in. It is only an A-ranking summoning dungeon, so we should be able to clear it quickly, she added before summoning a boat out of thin air and jumping into it. Hopefully that goblet thing you told us about will still be here, the third girl sighed as she followed. It is, the first said as the boat silently headed toward the shimmering gate at the center of the lake. Hey, this area is restricted. A guard who was sleepy there finally noticed them and began to shout, but the third girl just waved his hand, making his eyes roll back, then fall asleep with the 5 others who were hidden around. I am really envious of how versatile your powers can be, the first told the third as they walked toward the gate. Epic ranking classes are really something else. I am also a bit surprised that heroic aura can be used like this, the third sighed as she ignored the sleeping guards and stepped right in. Chapter 535. Supreme Demon. PFFTTTTTTTTTTT. Tulip didn't usually laugh out loud. A lady shouldn't, but she couldn't help it. For the past 20 minutes, every time she looked at Rain, she couldn't help but want to giggle. He looked ridiculous. Oh, shut up. Rain, who was walking awkwardly in a skimpy, sexy-made uniform, couldn't help but curse loudly. It is all because you said that you should trust that fricking contract, he cursed, glaring daggers at her. Then at that Vic guy walking ahead. Now he remembered who this guy was. It was the arrogant bastard who conquered the moon dungeon way back and took all the benefits. Rain, you can't blame her, Ray said quickly, struggling to hold back a smile. We didn't have a choice, she said as she pulled her own skirt down. Rain humphed angrily, then looked at the other guy beside him, Kiln, who was walking with his head down. Well, at least he was not the only one. And he also got to look at Tulip's fine thighs, so at least he got something out of this. I have never heard of your name before. Your Highness, where are you from? He asked rudely. This seat's origin is not something a peasant like you should know about. Vic hesitated for a moment, then said briefly, dodging the question. Hearing him, Tulip sighed. She figured as much this guy was not going to divulge his background that easily. Then, where are we heading now anyway? Rain asked. Nowhere, we have already reached our goal, Vic answered as they approached a large, ominous gate that had its iron-plated door shattered from the inside. This is the summoning room? Tulip asked, realizing something. Reaching this place was like walking in a giant maze. Without his help, she and the others wouldn't have reached here in 1,000 years. One had to remember that nothing attacked them along the way, or this place would have been a giant death trap with all the tentacles, warily keeping watch over them all the way. Was the summoning room? It is now the anchoring room, Vic replied as he walked straight in. The others followed behind him, looking around curiously. Inside it was a completely destroyed, dimly lit hall with a strange golden statue of a strange-looking bird with swords as wings in its center, appearing out of place as it didn't even have a scratch, with a white silk tapestry placed right under it. 12 candles were lit around it on the floor, forming a circle. Beside the statue, 2 hooded short figures stood. Rain could tell that they were girls, and pretty ones too. That's what his instinct told him. Did you finish your task? Vic asked, making Tulip realize that those 2 were his subordinates. Yes, Your Highness, the first, with a strange, obscured voice, answered. Now all that is left is dealing with this thing, she said, pointing to a mat on the floor in front of the statue. Good, he said before turning to Tulip and her friends. If everything works as intended, we should be able to exit this place soon. Until then, protect this emperor, he said to Tulip before walking to the mat and taking a meditative pose on it. Tulip nodded and pulled out a sword, one that he had given her earlier, then watched as Vic took 3 boxes out of thin air, 1 big and 2 small. Opening them one by one, he placed them in front of him. Everyone squinted their eyes at the things inside. All the boxes had strange golden apples. The big one had no less than 10, while the small ones each had just a single one. Also, the apple in the last box had a different hue and was cut into 2 pieces with its core extracted. Tulip couldn't tell what those things were, but her instinct told her they were very precious. Vic slowly took 3 apples from the big box and put them next to the statue. "Eat!" he commanded. Whoosh! A tentacle appeared out of the statue's center. Then, hesitatingly, it wrapped around the apple and pulled it back, disappearing into the statue in a second. A satisfied voice sounded right after as the hall shook slightly. Vic chuckled and placed the rest of the apples from the big box on the altar. The monster didn't bother to wait and began grabbing them one by one. As it ate them, Rain couldn't help but notice that the aura around that tentacle kept getting stronger and stronger. "Not yet," the second girl suddenly said with a soft voice, making Rain realize that this one was clearly a minor. What did she mean by not yet? Vic nodded. Then, taking the box away, he got another one with 10 apples and began placing them on the altar. The monster didn't need to be asked to eat as it gobbled them. It even had 2 other tentacles spawn and began to grab for them as if it became addicted. Vic didn't mind, he kept taking out apples and giving them to it. It had been connected, the second girl finally said as the monster reached for the 37th apple. Vic immediately took the apple from the second box, carefully holding it and placing it on the altar. The monster naturally grabbed it and then, just as the 2 girls ducked down, the hall shook. A loud screech rocked the hall as if the monster was in pain and then, boom! The sound of a huge explosion sounded right from underneath them, rocking the entire cave, even forcing a few of the ceiling tiles to fall down. Rain and the others were barely able to keep to their feet, with Ray falling directly to the ground as everything swayed around them. Right after, an even wickeder, angry screeching voice sounded as thousands of pointy feelers sprang from the walls, all aiming toward Vic, but strangely enough, they were very slow, as if resisting a great pain while they aimed for their target. Their slow pace allowed the first girl to pull a long sword and begin to leisurely hack at anyone who came too close to Vic. "What are you doing? Defend His Highness," she spat. Tulip, who realized that apples must have done something to hurt that monster badly, nodded and pulled her weapon, then began to help. Rain and the others quickly followed. They have signed a contract after all. Rain, as he fended against those feelers, could only wonder how that girl was hacking them with ease. Even while using all his strength, he was barely able to scratch them. She was clearly a very high-level player. Ignoring the chaos, Vic pulled the silk tapestry under the statue to reveal an intricate magical circle that was already prepared. He took a deep breath as he placed his hand on it. Closing his eyes, he uttered a single command. "Die! Kai Ray." The monster screamed as its feelers that were attacking all fell to the ground limbless. Not for long, though it took them 1.4 seconds to rise back up and continue their fanatic attack. His command clearly only affected it for a negligible amount of time, but for him that was enough. The monster screeching suddenly became loud. It was so loud that Clin, Ray, and the other girl could no longer resist and fainted directly. Only Rain and Tulip could barely hang on. Thankfully, as that screech sounded, the feelers started acting strangely, hitting themselves against the walls as if frenzied. It took her a second to notice it, but those feelers, they were fighting against each other. He is taking command over it? Tulip wondered as she swung her sword at any feeler that approached. "I think so," Rain whispered. "HSSSS. It's done," Vic said as his face turned pale white, and he collapsed back as if he had suffered a great injury. His voice was barely audible with all the screeching. Watching this, the second girl quickly ran to his side and began activating some kind of healing skill. Tulip squinted her eyes as she wondered why he was hurt. Then, a giant tentacle descended right over Vic, making her gasp, wanting to warn Vic about it. But it was too late. Just as the tentacle was about to hit him, it dodged to the side, reaching for the third box where the third apple was. It immediately wrapped around it and devoured it. The screeching sounded again, but this time it was very weak. Then, at a visible rate, all the tentacles began to wither at a visible rate. It was as if they were aging and withering like old tree branches. Then it all stopped. The feelers and tentacles began to turn to ashes just as the sickly-looking Vic put his hand on the statue and shattered it into a million pieces. Almost immediately. Astral terror? /%%%%%%% S summoning had been cancelled. Dungeon cleared. Congratulations. Settling rewards and exiting dungeon in 59 minutes. That's it. Rain asked in surprise as he pulled down his skirt. Due to his actions earlier, it was forced to flip up, revealing the stripped underwear and the huge bulge below. He was wondering what just happened. Wasn't destroying the statue enough to end the dungeon? What with the apples then? What did this Vic do to it before? What do you want it to be more difficult? Vic asked with a sigh. It is over, you are free to... Vic began to speak weakly but paused as he suddenly turned to look to the side with a startled expression. The space broke, and 3 masked girls in combat suits walked right in from the darkness. I see we are just in time, their leader said as she looked around the hall, then froze as her eyes adjusted to the dark and she finally noticed Tulip and... Everyone eyed each other. Rainer? Why the fuck are you in that ridiculous dress? Did you change your gender or something? She finally gasped, even forgetting to mask her voice, allowing the 2 Emperor subordinates to realize her identity. Mona. Ah, like hell I... Wait, how do you know that name? Rain took a step back and pulled his sword. Could she be related to those demons who kidnapped him into that hell back then? Rainer was the name only his late mother used to call him by when he deserved a spanking. Mana was a bit surprised by his reaction, realizing that she said a bit too much. You will know later, she said, sighing as she also eyed Tulip, Ray, and the others. Then her eyes turned toward Vic. You are the one in charge here? She asked. She had no idea how this guy forced the others to wear a ridiculous-made uniform, but she could tell he was the one behind it from the way everyone around the room was acting. This Emperor is indeed the one in charge. We always like to be on top. But if a pretty girl like you wanted that, we wouldn't mind. You can ride the seat like a cowgirl. A train of cowgirls along with your sis. Smack. One of the Emperor's subordinates smacked his head, making him stop as he said too much. Excuse our master, he is a bit lightheaded after his encounter with that monster, she said as the other girl quickly gagged him. I felt a strange soul battle was occurring here. Perhaps, did you split your soul in an attempt to take over his body? Mona asked, noticing Vic's bizarre state and connecting a few dots. Still, she failed to notice that he almost said the word sisters. Are you a demon? She asked in a very cold voice as she gave a secret signal to the girls behind her. HSSSSSSSS. Tulip gasped, hearing her, turning to look at Vic. I am not. He began to speak, but before he could continue, Zoe was in front of him, slashing with her sword. Bang! The sword was stopped by the first subordinate, who simply grabbed it with her hand that was covered by a strange metallic gauntlet, then pushed toward Zoe. Brink! The sound of metal hitting metal sounded as Zoe, who parried with a small dagger, was pushed back, but not before Mona and Ku, who had been standing silently behind, also attacked. Sadly, they were stopped by Tulip and Rain. Attacking this Emperor like this is not cool. Vic, who kept his position with his second subordinate healing him, said, We have a thing against demons. The policy is to first kill then ask questions, you see. Mona said, delaying with demons was a mistake, as it usually gave them time to perform some strange arts. I told you, I am not a demon, but my demonic energy detector is telling me something else, she said, taking out a strange-looking cylindrical gem from her pocket. Oops. Vic foreigned. Damn it, because of his damaged soul, he was not perfectly controlling his bloodline. This Emperor does have a demonic bloodline, you see, but not a demon, he confessed. It doesn't change a thing. Mona replied coldly. No, it doesn't, and it seems like we have an awkward situation here. He sighed. He made you sign a contract to protect him, she asked Rain and Tulip. Both nodded. Until the dungeon is over, Tulip added, looking at Vic with a strange look. Like Mona, she was wondering about his real identity. I see. Mona sighed. Then how about you make a deal with me, too? She asked. What do you want? Vic asked. Were you the one who emptied the vault? Mona asked directly. She just came from the Von Rosen's family main vault that she found through the dungeon map function, and to her surprise, that place was sparkly clean. A bit of a strange thing to see in the midst of all the destruction. Vic smiled. And what if we did? The first subordinate asked, making both Rain and Tulip squint their eyes. As they were walking around the maze-like tunnels, Vic must have commanded his subordinates to steal everything. Damn it! You have a green-colored goblet, I want it, she said directly. And why would I get in return? Vic asked. What do you want? Mona asked directly. What he wanted as a price would tell her a lot about his background. Well, nothing physical, Just that you and your hero friend would both owe me a huge favor, he said as he eyed her from head to toe as if he could see through all of her secrets. Monarch, he added. Mona squinted her eyes, and so did the other two behind her. Who are you? She asked coldly as her eyes turned frosty. No one in this world knew her codename unless they came from the other timeline like her. Also, the word favor was something she only knew about as her master explained it to her a long time ago. Favor and karma are connected. Nothing in the world went unrewarded. So one must be careful what fate threads to weave. I am your F.A. The little girl had to gag him again as he began to use the wrong persona. Our master is the emperor. That's all you need to know, the first subordinate said as she looked worriedly toward Vic. The soul energy this time was very severe. This guy was barely hanging on. If not for Ruby keeping beside him, it would have been troublesome. Emperor. Mona raised one eyebrow. She was now 99% sure that this guy came from her timeline. As the world's empress, there was the scariest title. But who was he? She could only think of the possibility of him being one of those supreme demons. Damn it, if he were, she would be making a deal with a demon. Do you want it or not? Vic asked again impatiently, faintly aware that she was making some very wrong presumptions, but didn't care. I will take it, Mona said as she looked toward Zoe. Owing someone a favor was not to be taken lightly, especially for those who knew how fate works. But they really needed this thing as it might help awaken Zoe's past memories. Good, Vic said, flicking his hand and making a strange-shaped green goblet, made out of shiny glass that might be radioactive, appear out of thin air. The Miracle Goblet, SSS, an epic artifact, allows a hero class holder to awaken the Miracle Worker subclass. He threw it to her. You'd better awaken that class fast if you want to make it in time for the tournament, he said. We will, Mona said as she caught the goblet, checked it, and then handed it to the girl behind her. You plan to go there too? She asked. Of course, you are not the only one after the legacy in the Jade Dungeon, he smirked. Even my wife will be. His second subordinate gagged him again as the first one took out a talisman and activated it. Whoosh! Vic and his two girls disappeared almost immediately. Is it okay to let them go? Ku asked directly. I put a trace on him. Mona smirked as she looked toward Tulip and Rain. You two had better dispose of everything he gave you. Demons should never be trusted. Tulip nodded, and so did Rain, who began to strip. You! Zoe looked away, so did Tulip and Ku. As shameless as ever. Mona sighed. You seem to know a lot about me, he said as he finally took off his underwear, then used the tapestry that Vic left on the ground to cover his private parts. Yes, but this is not something that can be explained here. She hesitated. But I have a piece of news that might interest you, she said after thinking about it. What? He asked suspiciously. Your sister is most likely still alive. My sister, Cassidy. How do you know that? Where is she? He immediately asked. Cassidy was taken away by their demon jailers when she was merely 3 years old, and after destroying the stronghold he was imprisoned at, he tried to look for her, but found no traces at all. I can only see that her ID is active. Nothing else. But knowing you, you may be able to find her. We will talk again after the Jade Dungeon is concluded. As there are many things that I can't mention here, let's... She paused. What's wrong? Zoe, who was inspecting the goblet basket. Damn it! How did that guy get rid of my trace? Mona asked with a frown. That guy vanished from her map. Something that should never happen. The only explanation was that the Emperor must be a lord, like her master, but that would mean... Shit. A demon and a lord meant one thing. That guy was definitely a supreme demon. Chapter 536. Reporting. Bang 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 bang. Ba waring. Bang bang bang. You couldn't sleep too? Ruby, who walked in holding her pillow, asked Theta and Elise, who sat on the large bed in the hotel's suite's bedroom playing chess while awkwardly listening to the chaos from the suite on the other side of the floor, down the hallway where Victor and Lynn were going at it. Don't mention it, Theta said, sighing. Victor is really hurt this time, isn't he? You could tell, Ruby asked. Although he is disguising the voices from in there, he forgot to mask the banging. Elise sighed, blushing a bit. No wonder Lynn insisted on taking him on by herself. The level of power at play here was something that would be very dangerous for anyone else, as Victor seemingly lost the power to fully control his bloodline. Bang 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 bang. Shatter. Is this the third window? Theta asked. The fourth, Ruby sighed, wondering what the fuck they were doing in there. Didn't you heal him? Theta asked worriedly. Oh, I did. But this time the damage was a bit severe, but according to Victor, he should be able to resolve the problem in 2 days max. Ruby sighed, then looked toward the door. It opened, and Alpha walked in wearing her pajamas and also holding her pillow. "Why aren't you there helping Lynn satisfy your young master?" Elise asked immediately. "Isn't that part of your new job as a bed-warming maid?" she asked sarcastically. Alpha glared daggers at her. Then, ignoring her, she threw herself on a couch. This room was the furthest from Victor's, so like the others, she could only escape here. Not even the hotel management could help them here. After all, no one could tell the great Victor von Weiss to stop banging his wife. "What happened today?" she asked, trying to distract herself. "Can't you wait for the young master to tell you himself?" Ruby asked, not giving Alpha face at all. After they heard how she tried to mess with Margaret, all of them except for the alphabet girls began to treat her a bit coldly. "Can't you give me the short version? I bet Theta and Elise are dying to know too." Alpha didn't care about the little girl's tone and said, "I am not dying or anything." Theta pouted. "But I really like to know." "It would be fine, I guess," Ruby sighed. After entering the dungeon, we quickly discovered that all the von Rosen family members there were already dead, and that tentacle monster had already occupied the entire space, filling it with its tentacles and strange feelers, she sighed. Other than the surface, everything underneath was swallowed by it. "Oh," Theta nodded. They did know about that, as Victor already told Elise about his plan the previous night. At first, the young master immediately tried to subdue the monster using his master seal power, but it didn't work. That thing resisted very strongly, even tried to secretly kill us multiple times before reluctantly giving up after getting punished severely. Next, Victor tried to force it into his cauldron, intending to deal with it slowly, but it didn't work. Apparently, the monster is not a single infinity, but an amalgamation of many parts, like the human body is made of many cells. Yet the monster's parts have strange things where each of them seems to have its own partial soul. I don't know how to describe it, but it was the strangest thing I've ever seen. I think that's why it could resist the young master's power, as when one part obeys, the other finds it easy to rebel. This makes it impossible to pull it into the cauldron. Bang 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 bang. They were at it again, but the girls ignored them. Then he had to go with Plan C, Elise said awkwardly as she squinted her eyes, finally making a move on the chessboard. "Yes," Ruby, blushing a bit, said. "For that, we had to enter its insides. Let me tell you, getting swallowed whole was not a pretty experience. But thankfully that monster couldn't harm us. Once inside, the young master ordered Lynn and me to seek out the von Rosen's vaults and treasuries, as he went to check the mummified von Rosen family heads to steal their treasures and storage rings. After that, he planned to finish off the remaining agents from the different families who were sent there and scam Mistress Lily's sister, who happened to be there as a part of the von Krone expedition. Typical Victor scumbaggery," Alpha spat. Bang 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 bang. Ruby ignored her. "So, after we found the vaults and grabbed everything inside of them into the cauldron, we headed to the summoning room where the monster's anchor existed. Thanks to Victor's power projected through Miss Lynn, that monster didn't dare to harm us the entire time, though it kept its eyes and strange inner mouths aimed at us, especially when Lynn began to prepare the body-seizing array for Victor," she sighed. "We finished just in time for Victor, who was disguised as Vic Volt and 5 other guys, to enter the hall. There, he began the ritual as planned by forcing the monster to eat many sword apples to weaken its soul and convert it into energy. The monster first let its part consume the apples, but after it confirmed its power, it became greedy and let its hidden central part take a bite. That's when Victor gave it one of the soul cherries that was laced with a drop of soul poison. Then it exploded," Theta said, making a move on the board. She was about to win. "Yes, it was a bit scary, but thankfully, as Victor expected, that room was reinforced enough to withstand it. Anyways, the monster's central soul was harmed severely and lost control, giving Victor the chance to order it to die. This severed the connection between the parts for a split second, allowing Victor to serve his soul and push part of it into the monster, taking control of a part of it that he used to eat the reverse soul apple, converting all that rampaging energy into soul once again that dead into Victor's fragment, slowly making it grow stronger and stronger until it managed to overpower the central part and take its authority," Ruby explained. Then, Victor easily pulled it all into the cauldron, after cutting away the one last tentacle where the monster's last remaining soul hid, and then he cancelled the summon, cleared the dungeon, and collected the reward. Alpha spat as she squinted her eyes. Now Victor should have an extra body like that of a tentacle monster. "Damn it. Yes, my level jumped to 81, Ruby said with a smirk. "Still, the story is not over yet," she said. "What happened?" Elise asked, making another move. "We got intruders. Mona, Miss Zoe, and some other girl appeared out of nowhere." Ruby sighed. "What?" Elise asked, looking up. "What were they doing there? How did they get into the monster?" "No idea. According to Victor, it seemed to be one of Mona's newly awakened powers. Anyways, That girl seemed to have noticed the young master's demonic bloodline and thought he was a demon because he began losing control of his bloodline and the clear symptoms of soul Y. So she attacked immediately. How dare she? Theta spat as she stood up, knocking over the chessboard where she was apparently winning but in fact was about to lose very badly. Bang 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 bang. You can't blame her. She didn't know his identity. Anyways, Miss Zoe seemed to realize something and held back. So Lynn, with the help of that tulip girl and her friends, who were forced to help, managed to safely fend Mona and that other girl off, Ruby explained. Knowing that she couldn't overpower us, Mona quickly began to make demands that we should hand them some artifacts we took from the vault. Apparently, it was for Miss Zoe to awaken some rare class, so the young master immediately complied. Oh, Alpha rolled her eyes. Victor really liked to pamper that cousin of his. He probably wanted to add her to his harem, but couldn't find a good chance yet. Anyways, during the negotiations, the young master began to kinda lose it, almost giving up his cover a few times, so Mistress Lin quickly decided to escape. Using a teleportation talisman, we bolted to the outer peripheries of the dungeon and hid in the cauldron until it was over. Ruby concluded just as the banging noise stopped. Did they finally finish? Alpha asked as she felt a strange sense of peace. Bang 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 bang. They started again. George, is the damn monthly report ready? Theodore asked as he took his seat behind the grand desk, then took out his pipe and began to fiddle with it. Doing this report felt like homework for him, and if not for George bugging him to finish this, he would have procrastinated a bit more. Yes, master. Everything is right here, George said as he sat right next to the desk with a very thick stack of paper, then took a small monocle and placed it on his eye. This was an artifact that raised intelligence and allowed him to think more clearly for a short period of time. Let's start then and get done with it. What's first? Theodore asked, keeping his eyes and hands busy with his pipe. It is a report about the sales of our latest products, George said. The algae beauty product, despite its exorbitant price, is selling out amazingly well. Selling products to women is always the right thing to do. Those idiots would pay anything for beauty, Theodore sighed. Indeed, master, the energy bars are also selling well. The von Geldstadt family already took 87% of our inventory last month, and the other families are already showing interest. They are still negotiating with the main family for a better price though. Like hell we are going to lower it. Don't those idiots know what monopoly means? Theodore spat. Madam, and might agree to them in exchange for some other types of benefits, George said. Although the energy bar businesses were officially under Theodore's control, the family had the final say in any deal regarding such a strategic resource. Fine, what's next? Theodore sighed. It is about our hotels and resorts around the continent, due to the ongoing conflict in the north and the others. Keep it short, Theodore interrupted. Other than Victor's newly opened resort in Golden Waterfall Town, which is doing surprisingly well, our profits are down by 9%. I propose we follow Victor's method and offer algae-based beauty treatment in our establishment to draw in new customers, George said. Do it. Make sure to use only diluted products. Though, I want the algae beauty product to keep its exclusivity aura, Theodore replied, finally finished preparing his pipe. Understood. George noted a few things on the side of the paper, then flipped it. The rest of the business is doing fine at the moment, so I will skip those, he said. Theodore nodded as George put an entire folder to the side and opened a new one. Next, let's discuss the young masters and mistresses, George said. Let's start with Miss Alice. What did that last do this time? Theodore asked. Alice had just returned with her master to the heavenly sect, so technically, she couldn't have had any time to cause any trouble yet. Why bother me about those? Throw them in the trash with the rest, sparing her the trouble of doing that herself. Theodore spat. For the last 3 years, he got no less than 300 similar letters, all coming from different families who wanted to curry favor with Theodore. Those fools had no idea what they were getting into. This one is different. It came through the family, and Madame and had already agreed to it. What? Theodore faintly lifted his head to look at George. Agreed? Who is the groom? It came from the von Krone family. The other side is their patriarch's nephew. Oh shit. Did he meet Alice in the heavenly sect or something? The von Krone were one of the old oligarchs, a family so hidden and deep that even their von Weiss family had to keep wary around things involving them. Still, it was very rare to see any of their heirs. Surprisingly not. Do you remember that guy Julian you met at the wedding? The one who claimed to be Miss Alice's boyfriend. George quickly explained. Both of us know that he was a random guy whom she got from the wedding venue to scam her mother and me. Theodore spat. Wait, don't tell me. Yeah, he turned out to be a hidden von Krone heir who was out to experience the world. And, according to the letter, he might have already slept with Miss Alice. George replied in a bit of a glad tone. Him and another 100 burly guys. Like that would make him qualified to marry her. Theodore grumbled. No, according to his letter, the guy swore that Miss Alice was a virgin back then, so that's why they are proposing to make her his main wife. Also, a similar letter seemed to have been sent to the heavenly sect. George said. Mistress Serena will probably be the one to make the final call. Theodore opened his eyes in surprise. Their daughter? Was she playing them with those burly guys? Possible. She was his daughter after all. Tell Elena about this. She is about to give birth, so technically, she is in her naggy period. Let her release that energy on her daughter, Theodore said after some thinking. Understood. George shook his head as he took note of his master's orders. He would need to censor a lot of info about Yulian before presenting it to Elena. But she would definitely be glad that he came from a prestigious family. What about Mike? It has been a while since I heard of him, Theodore asked. Lady and arranged a job for him in the family's headquarters. He is doing fine, preparing to lead the young misses and masters into the tournament, George said. Mike, despite his strange fetish for prostitutes, was a very dependable young man. Young Master Victor, however. What about Victor? Didn't that pervert already leave to attend Gary von Goldstadt's wedding? Is he already in trouble? Theodore asked, quickly jumping to conclusions. How long has it been? 2 days. Yes, as Master Theodore was busy on a fishing trip, many things occurred, George said. What happened? Theodore asked with a sigh. After Rosette left with her master, he felt so empty inside that he needed to go fish for some new girl. Hence, a fishing trip. First of all, young Master Victor attended young Master Gary's bachelor party on a yacht. The yacht was detonated, and Master Gary went missing. What? Why didn't anyone tell me? Theodore almost stood up. Master, the last time I alerted you while you were on one of your trips, you ordered that unless something very important happens, you are not to be disturbed. My fucking son was detonated. Isn't that important enough? Theodore asked. No, by the time the news came, it was all solved. As usual, young Master Victor survived and was perfectly fine. The reports indicated that he was in the latrine when it happened and was just thrown into the water, but according to a private message that he sent me, he said that his eldest disciple brother was there to see him and he saved his life, George said. Apparently, it was targeted at Gary. Someone wanted to switch the groom, but thankfully, due to the involvement of the said eldest disciple brother, the plan failed. Eldest disciple brother? Since when did Victor join a sect? You remember when he reported getting a master's in the other world? Yeah, right. Did you find anything about that guy? Nothing at all. If not for Mistress Ariana, Lady Rosette, and young Miss Aerith reporting meeting him, I would have believed that he was just some fake guy that young Master Victor invented to use as an excuse to do some shady stuff, George reported. Oh, that would be absurd, Theodore said and shook his head as he finally lit his pipe using a match. If Victor had such power to cross worlds, he would have long used it to gain favor with the family. Yeah. Anyways, at the wedding, someone attempted to assassinate Master Harvey and many people died. What? Again? Theodore asked again in surprise. Is he hurt? Master Harvey survived. Lady Valerie managed to valiantly defend her grandfather in the midst of chaos. A few attendants were harmed, but nothing. I meant Victor. Oh no, I told you, young Master Victor and his wives are fine. They hid under the table during the entire thing. They were safe, George replied. Good. Did they catch the one behind this? Not yet. Oh, keep me informed on any news regarding this. Theodore sighed. I swear whenever Victor goes, trouble follows. Indeed, young Master Victor had just left the mess at the wedding and got into the next one almost immediately. What do you mean? Theodore, who was about to put the pipe to his mouth, asked with a strange expression. After the wedding, young Master Victor went to the Bloodflint family to ask for their daughter's hand. What? Theodore asked again. How dare that brat go seeking marriages on his own? Doesn't he know that he already has 20 arranged marriages waiting for him? 19 Master. The girl from the Wiseman family ran away. She was last spotted at the Heavenly Sect, and you were planning to wait another year until the news about his mass wedding died down. Right? Theodore nodded. Anyway, that girl he is proposing to is someone Master has met. It was that cute loli who hosted young Master Victor's wedding. The one with the brown twin tails? Theodore asked. Remembering that girl, she was very lively back then. He didn't pay much attention to her, though, due to all the chaos. Yes, apparently our reports about her were not thorough enough. She turned out to be Robin Bloodflint, the heiress of the Bloodflint family who fled home about a year ago, George reported. Oh, her background is not bad. But why the fuck is everyone around turning out to belong to some big shot? Theodore asked with an annoyed voice. This seems to be something to do with young Master Victor. George sighed. He had been wondering about this too. The young master seems to have something to him that attracts trouble. Did he get himself involved in that Bloodflint family's internal affairs, which led to a fight? Not at all. The Bloodflint patriarch seemed to be okay with Victor marrying his granddaughter. It was just during the meeting. Some guy reported them for forcing a minor to get married, and a police officer arrived. For some reason, I don't feel surprised. Theodore rolled his eyes. He always felt that Victor, with his lowly maid's shenanigans, was going to get his due retribution one day. Nothing like that. That police officer turned out to be some crazy guy who had an old grudge with the Bloodflint family, and began a massacre. A player. A very powerful one. Thankfully, young Master Victor had a few of his masters protecting talismans and activating them. He managed to scare that guy away by acting invincible. George said. This was reported by their spies and by Victor, respectively. He even proudly shouted, "My balls are made of steel," when that guy kicked his crotch. That's my son. Let me guess. Now those Bloodflints owe him a favor. Theodore said. Yeah, they agreed to wed Miss Robin to him, and that her firstborn would be able to enter the Bloodflint patriarchal hierarchy. George said. They seem to be wanting to use the von Weiss's family power to their advantage. When it's time for that, we will let the young ones deal with the mess. Theodrio said dismissively. Understood. Anyway, young Master Victor is holing up in his hotel for now with the girls. Apparently they seem to be trying some new rough play and had been going at it for 5 hours straight and disturbing all the guests. If it were not a family-run hotel, he would have been kicked out. George sighed. It is nice to be young. What about his wives? I heard they were running his business for him. Theodore asked with interest. Normally, he didn't care about his son's wives, but Victor's girls were different. One moment, George said as he switched to a certain thick folder and flipped it open. Yes, Lady Margaret has already built a sex toy factory on that piece of land Nick was using. The one on the back mountain? Theodore asked. Yes, but Master, this is very suspicious if I may say so myself. Putting a sex toy factory in such a remote place is logical. Boys like to hide their porn. Master, the one behind this is Lady Margaret, and what I am afraid of is that they are using this to hide something else. Just lately, she hired a genius physics PhD student named Zolan, who has very unorthodox opinions on some stuff, which led to her professor technically kicking her out. I can't believe this is just to design sex toys. It is for sex robots. Margaret told me all about it a while back when she was here. Apparently, Zolan's theory might relate to mana, so she is giving it a shot to create mana-powered sex robots. Theodore chuckled, shaking his head. Young people these days and their wild imagination. I want this to be a lesson to her not to be scammed by those phony scientists. Ah, I see. George sighed. He just felt that Margaret was hiding something bigger there. Hiding a porn magazine was normal, but the things one hid inside his porn magazine were the real screwed-up stuff. Still, since his master didn't want to delve into this, it was not his business. What else? Miss Margaret had been sponsoring quite a few orphanages around the world, George said. To get more of those lowly maids? Theodore asked, raising one eyebrow. No, only 1% of the ones there seem to qualify, the rest seem to be normal charity, George said. Though I suspect the ones there will secretly form a secret force of young Master Victor in the future. The subjects they hire teachers for are strange. I can understand math, foreign languages, and business administration, but why teach them storytelling, occultism, and psychology focusing on teen troubles? Don't ask me. Maybe Victor wants to hire them to write materials for movies when they grow up. Theodore shrugged. Indeed. They are also giving them lessons in acting and vocal performances. George nodded. As long as he doesn't do anything that would cause the family to make trouble with us, don't bother with him. Theodore sighed. This was his philosophy in raising his children. How is little Arya doing? He asked. Although it turned out she was not his real daughter, he still cared about her a lot. Lady Arya's running of Horizon Media is going well. There were some hiccups regarding the rights of some movies, but their media department is covering for the losses. Lara's albums are selling great. Yeah. Too bad the little lass had to leave with that old hag Serena. Theodore sighed. It was for the best, Master. After her bloodline awakening, Lady Lara needs a better environment. Anyway, apparently they found a replacement for her idol band. But they are in training. In fact, those girls are not total strangers apparently. They are young Master Roy's half-sisters. Jewel's daughters? Theodore got interested almost immediately. Yes, George quickly replied. I almost forgot about that chick because of Rosette's trouble. I was right about those thick thighs of hers. They were meant to carry a lot of children. Theodore licked his lips. Didn't I tell Roy to arrange a meeting with his mother? What happened to that? Apparently, young Master Roy chose to wisely forget all about it after seeing how Master was fawning all over Lady Rosette. George kept it brief. I wouldn't blame him, he quickly added. to make sure his master wouldn't punish the boy. Ah, don't worry, I get it. Theodore chuckled drily. He really lost his self-composure there and embarrassed himself in front of his lads. But he couldn't be blamed. Rosette was technically the love of his life. Arrange for me to meet Jewel by chance in the next week. We'll do this behind Roy's back, he said. Will do. George took his notebook and added his master's request to it. How is that lad doing? You mean Roy? Yeah, I don't want to admit it, but I like him, Theodore confessed. That guy was, as Lara guessed, a very dependable young man. He is doing pretty fine. He managed to clear the conditions and will participate in the tournament along with Iris, George said. They should be heading there tomorrow with young Master Mike. Good. What about Axel? He is staying low, waiting for Victor to return and to switch places with him. Though he was not totally inactive, according to the rumors, he found a few girls and had been keeping himself busy. Good for him. At least that would keep him away from Victor's girls. Theodore sighed. Did Olaf contact him? No, not yet. We still don't know what that guy is after. Then how about Max? I haven't been hearing about that little piece of shit lately, Theodore asked. Nothing. He is acting perfectly normal. Too normal if you ask me. But nothing suspicious. He will join the others at the tournament. So we will keep an eye on him. You do that and... Master! There was a knock on the door. Come in, Theodore said, allowing Adele to walk right in. What's wrong? George asked as she bowed. Master Falcon had contacted us through the urgent channel and asked if we had any info about Miss Zoe, Adele replied quickly. Apparently, he took her to a ruin run by one of his friends to train for the tournament. But she came out ahead of schedule and wasn't contacting him. So he is worried. Oh, well, tell him we don't have any info, and to let the young ones live their lives. Being overprotective is not a good thing, Theodore said dismissively. As long as they make it to the tournament, everything should be fine. Hello everyone, this is Shadow. Due to copyright restrictions on YouTube, I can't publish many of the audiobooks you love. That's why I've created a special paid service where you can enjoy over 300 high-quality audiobooks from platforms like Webnovel, Pocket FM, Audible, Wuxia, and more. Each novel comes as a one-time purchase, no subscriptions, no hidden fees. After payment, you'll receive full access via Telegram, along with all future updates for that novel. You'll find a wide selection of your favorite genres and titles, always in premium audio quality. Check the full list of available novels in the description. DM me now to get your favorite stories in audiobook form and start listening today.